Alright guys, so currently when we enter data into these fields and click on add button, we create an employee object and log that to the console. Now we would like to render this employee object as a list item onto this web page. Also, we would like to keep track of count of employees. So let's open the employee class and add a property in there. Okay, private number of employees of type number. Now we need to build a logic such that every time we create a new object, we increment this property by 1. But the problem is that if we make it an instance property like department, name, age, and so on, okay, it would be different for every object. Now we need this property to be shared by all the instances of employee class. Okay, so the solution is to change this to static property and initialize it to 0 to start with. And we mention static after the access modifier and before the name of the property. So, and we got to initialize it to 0, like so. Okay. Now static members can be accessed without having the class initiated. Of course, you can still use access modifiers like we have used private in here. Okay. Let's increment this property in the constructor of this class because that's the special method that would be invoked every time we create an object of this class. Okay. And to access this, since it's a static member now, you say employee, the name of the class, dot, and you get this number of employee, and you increment it like so. Now, since we have made this property private, which is the right practice, let's create a static public method to get this property value outside the class. Okay, so we come down and add static get emp count, and this function is going to return us a string. Okay, and this time why not we use the ternary operator. Okay, because in this series we have not used this ternary operator yet, so we say return. Now if this employee dot number of employee, this count is greater than 0, okay, then we say string literal syntax, we say employee count and dynamically passing this employee dot number of employees. Otherwise we leave it blank like so. Okay, now let's save it and move on to the next step, which is to create a kind of render method which is going to render everything onto the web page. All right, so we are good with this. Let's close it. Now let's create a render template.ts file inside interfaces folder. Inside this file, we'll create an interface iRender template which contains a render method declaration. So we say export interface, name of the interface, inside this just have one method render. Okay, let's provide in the signature. It is going to return us what? Nothing. And for nothing we use void. Okay, like so. Now this method will take in 3 parameters. Okay, emp of type iSummary. Okay, and now we have imported it like so. Okay, Now, since employee class has implemented iSummary interface, so we can store an instance of employee class into this emp parameter like we did in the previous video. Next parameter in here is title, okay, which is of type string. Now we are going to use this parameter to describe the department type, whether an employee works into an IT department or into the non-IT department. Okay, and the third parameter would give us the control whether we would like the new employee to be added at the start or end of an existing list. So we say position POS colon, but what should be the type? The position could be either start or end. So it sounds like constants. And yes, we know enums allow us to define a collection of related values as a set of named constant. Okay, so in helpers folder, okay, let's create another file with the name position.ts and add a string enum position. And let's export it. Export enum position, and we said it is of string type, so we say start equal to start, and then end equal to end, like so. Now let's save this and import this enum now into render template.ts file. Okay, and in here we say position, and this is also imported. Okay, so let's save everything. Now time to create a render template class which would implement this iRender template interface. Okay, so under class folder, time to create one more file, and we call it render template.ts. All right, now export, okay, class render template is the name of the class. Okay, and this is supposed to implement iRender template, like so. All right, so this is also imported automatically. All right, now we are getting this error. Why? Because we have to implement the method. Okay, which method? Render method from this interface. All right, so we can close this as well. So now this class has got two properties, count and container. Now count is used to register this h2 element. Okay, now this h2 will display the count of the employees. And the other property is container, which is going to register this particular HTML unordered list element. Okay, this UL is a container, and all the employee objects we would create would get attached to it as list items. All right, now we would initialize these two properties, okay, using constructor shorthand syntax that I showed you in the last video. So we say constructor private, okay, count, and this should be of type what? HTML heading, okay, element, like so. Another one is main private container, and this is of type HTML UL, okay, just element, like so. And then opening and closing curly braces. Alright, so now let's implement the render method. Okay, render, okay, and we have to pass in parameters. All right, and those parameters are emp of type I summary. Okay, so this is imported now. We're good. Next one is title of type string, so that's okay. And then we have pos of type position, like so. Okay, right. So the first thing that we have to do in here is we have to work on the logic to display the employee count. Okay, and to do so we would invoke employees get emp count method. Okay, and store the output into a variable. Let's do that. So let present count is equal to employee. Okay, and again this is also imported. Guys, let's not forget to add js. Okay, dot, and we get this. Why? Because this is a static method. All right, so you don't need to create an instance of this class. Using the class name itself you can access this method. All right, great. So if the count is greater than 0, then only we would display the count information, otherwise we are not going to do it. Okay, fair enough. So we say if this present count, okay, if this is true, all right, then we'll say this dot count. Okay, now we are going to use the property inner text. Okay, like so, and we are going to set it equal to what? Present count, like so. Okay, so we have handled the count part. Now we need to create a new list item tag every time an employee object is created via clicking that add button, right? So let's create a list item element now. And to do so, we say const li is equal to document dot create element. Okay, and we have to pass in the type. Next, we have to create an h4 element to display the employee department. Okay, it will be IT, non-IT, right? So we say const h4, okay, equal to something document dot create element of type 4. Simple enough. Now we say h4 dot inner text, okay, and that is going to be equal to title. Okay, this is one of the parameter. Okay, like so. And finally we have to append this h4 element to the li element we created above. Okay, so to do so we have to say li dot append, and then we append this h4, like so. Okay, now we also need to create an html paragraph element to display the output of summary method. Remember, the summary method exists in the employee class and returns a formatted string. Now this paragraph tag or element will also go inside the li element. Okay, this const p is equal to document dot create element of type p, like so. Now we set the inner text of this paragraph element to the text returned by the summary method. There is a p dot inner text is equal to, now we have this emp, alright, and we are sure that since this is implementing this iSummary interface, this variable will have access to the summary method, like so. Okay, and finally append this as well to the li element we created above. So we say li dot append, and we provide in this p tag. Now we have the structure ready for displaying newly created employee objects onto the page. But do I want to add the newly created employee at the beginning or at the end of the list? So for that, we can do something like if. Now let's use this third one. So if we say POS, okay, triple equal to position dot, now you see those values, we say start. If that is true, that this dot container, okay, dot prepend, okay, so we have this prepend method, right? So now container is my UL, okay, and this is the li that we have created and we are prepending it. Else, okay, we append this, okay, we say this dot container dot append and we append li like so. Okay, save everything. Now this is also complete. All right, let's now move on to index.ts. Okay, and we have to find that h2, which is a count element, and the ul element. Okay, and you could see we only have one h2 and one ul tag. Okay, so we know how to find the elements. It's simple. We say const count is equal to document dot query selector, and then we say h2 like so, and at the end we put the exclamation mark. Then we do the same for container, and that is going to be document dot query selector, and then in here we pass in that ul, and again exclamation mark at the end. All right, now next step is we have to create an object of render template class by passing count and container elements in the render template constructor. To do so, we say let render template is equal to new render template like so, and it's imported in here. Great. And we pass in now count and container like so. Now we have to invoke the render method of the render template class using this render template object. Okay, so come down, and instead of logging it to the console, okay, we say render template, okay, dot, we have this render method, okay, like so, and let's start passing in. So the first thing that we have to pass is this emp, right? So we have this employee object in here like so, and the next one is the title, and the title is this department element dot value. Okay, so we mention that, and then we have to pass in the position. Okay, and we say position dot, let's say end. Last step is when we click on this clear button, okay, alongside resetting the form, which we have already implemented, we would also like to clear out the previously added employees and the count. Okay, so in the clear click event listener, we just say count dot inner text is equal to empty. Okay, and likewise we say container dot inner html, guys, because this is a ul and it contains those li items, so we set it to empty and we save everything. Okay, all set, fingers crossed. Let's move on to our application and try adding some employee objects. So we say John Doe. And guys, this coloring, I mean, this is checking for client-side validations, and you could see please lengthen this text to 6 characters or more. So I have also applied some kind of validations in here already. So we say John Doe, and same is applicable to this number field. So you see minimum value is 18 because that's a minimum age to start working. Alright, and then we pass in some value like so. Alright, we add it. Yay! So employee count 1 and we get this value. Alright, so we can close this out now. Okay, let's do the same for ID and we change John Doe to Sam Doe. Age, let's make it 34. Alright, his head no, and this time we say x dot y. Right guys? Alright, so we are adding at the end of this list and the count is increasing. Let's try the clear button. Alright, great. So the form is cleared as well as the employee count and that employee inventory is gone. Alright, okay, great. But there is still a major problem in this mini project. Okay, so let me reload this page. Okay, and click on the add button without filling any form fields. Boom. So we have created an incomplete employee object. That's not nice. So let's go back to index.ts and make the required changes. The logic would be to identify if the employee object contains empty string values for string type properties and NaN for number type properties. Okay. Now checking these for each of these properties one by one is overkilling. What if we make a collection out of these values, okay, and then check if that collection contains empty string or NaN values? Now we can use array of type any or union, okay, but the order or structure of these elements does not come into play in arrays. Now with tuple, when we assign values, these values must match the types defined in the tuple declaration in the same order. So why not we now declare an emp values tuple. Let emp values like so, and let's open our employee class. So let's check the type of these properties. The first property is of type string, second is also string, then we have number boolean string, string number boolean string. Let's do that. String number, we have boolean, and finally we have string again, like so. Now we say emp values equal to, and let's cut these things from here and paste that in here. Alright, so that is good. Now we can use the spread operator inside this constructor and we say emp values like so. Even this error is gone. Okay, but I still have to write the check. Okay, now check for empty string in NaN, we say if. Now since this is a tuple, unfortunately we do not have includes method available on tuples, so we have to take a different approach and we say if emp values, okay, dot, there is a method sum. Okay, what does it do? It determines whether the specified callback function returns true for any element of an array. So we have to write a callback inside that. So we say emp val, alright, fat arrow, and we check for certain conditions. So we say emp val, okay, triple equal to empty string like so, and we have to check for one more condition. So we use or. So if any of the condition is true, right, we don't want to create our object. Now check for any n. We say number dot is an an. So we have this method, and now we pass in this empty val like so. Now this will ensure that our employee object will not contain any empty string or any n. Okay, like so. And if that is true, so we'll say window dot alert, and we say all fields are mandatory. Do not create our object. All form fields are mandatory. Now in the else part, what I do, I just take these two lines, cut them, and paste it in here. Let's save it and check. Go back to our application, click on add. Alright, all form fields are mandatory. Okay, let me try with the same data again, and this is a valid data. Now it should, okay, yeah, it's created. Great. Check for the other one. Let's make it this time we. Okay, and we just say a.g c.com. Alright, so this also works. Let's click on the clear button. Okay. Alright guys, so with that I conclude this TypeScript for Beginner series. I hope you find this series useful, and if so, kindly like, share and subscribe if not already done.